Hello everybody, welcome to Fruitful Trees. I'm here with the mango man himself. This is Gary Zill, and we are going to be doing a video today talking about late season mangoes that they offer here at Zill's High Performance Nursery. And thank you very much for joining us today here on the show.
Well, Paul, it's a pleasure. Always, I always feel like I don't know all the answers, but that's why I say sometimes the people that have grown these trees and have watched them a lot, I'm very interested in hearing input from what they say. Although I honestly have to say I don't look much at social media. There's a lot of people say they've seen my videos, and I say, well, I haven't, because maybe I did them once and that was it over there. But it has been it's been very interesting and very, I should say, good for the mango business in general. That so many videos that you've done and other people have done about mangoes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Spread out.
Thank you. Everybody get ready today. Get a pen and paper out. And if you're looking to grow a mango, we're going to look at late season mangoes today. And here we go. All right, everybody. Here we are with Gary Zill. And we're going to be talking today about late season mangoes that the Zill Nursery offers. And a lot of people are asking about these. So, Gary, welcome to the show here.
Thanks, Paul. I wasn't expecting this morning, but we'll see how it goes.
Yes. Gary, so you grow mangoes for all different seasons. What does it mean, like late season? What time of year are we talking about here in South Florida for late season?
Well, sometimes it's late, depending on the way things grow. Even late July could be considered late some years, but usually you're thinking August and trees holding fruit into September, which is pretty late.
And what's the latest we're talking about getting mangoes when we look at late season mangoes?
Well, actually the latest I've really seen sometimes on a Keitt tree, which is one of the absolute latest varieties. They get ripe gradually on the fruit panicle, and the first ones will be bigger and at the top. And then towards the bottom, you'll get stuff that's maybe the size of a baseball or smaller, or basketball. I've seen those stay in until October, November. You never get them much later than that because the squirrels always get the last ones.
So there are advantages and disadvantages to late season. From a taste standpoint, is the longer the mango hangs on or later in the season, do mangoes taste better or worse, or that's not any connection with mangoes?
I don't think that being a late season has a real big advantage to the flavor. If it's a late mango, you better leave it on the tree till it's ready to come off. But there's some early season mangoes that come in late June that are very good. Some of the earlier mangoes are very forgiving if you pick them early. One that comes to mind is the one I call sweet tart. You can make a mistake, pick it a little early, it's still pretty good. You leave it on the tree longer and longer, it just gets better and better and a lot of times you get a tree, you've had it for a year or two, you get to know it better, you get a better idea of when to pick it, what it's like. That has nothing to do with early or late season, it's just an example of early season mango that can be picked. There's some others they're quite good, very good. But I guess we're going to talk about late season mangoes. I think the main reason, late versus early is if you got, 2 or 3 trees in your yard, you don't want them all to get ripe at the same time. And there are a lot of options for stuff that gets ripe late August, hangs on into September.
Okay, so you have several late season ones. I'm going to go through some of the more popular varieties of the late season ones. And I'm going to ask you about these varieties, just about flavor-wise, production-wise, even disease resistance-wise. And we'll talk about these different varieties to help, and also vigorous of the trees. Some trees are bigger or smaller. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could tell us a little about each variety. And I know one of the most popular late season varieties has become Venus. So tell us about Venus, a little about that tree. And we'll go through all the different varieties, but it seems Venus is gaining a lot of popularity today. What can you say about Venus?
Well, I'll start with saying basically it's a Southeast Asian, or as they say, Indo-Chinese type, like the Thai Vietnamese, Nam Dap Mai, Orance, Philippine, or call it Carabao, where it comes from in the Philippines. They have a very unique flavor, usually not much color, if any, pink, mostly yellow, and a distinctive aroma to the sap and obviously to the fruit. They're sometimes the flavor, they're a little thinner skinned, all this type, and right under the skin they can be a little bit bitter, which is not like your Indian mangoes. Your Indian varieties, sometimes right next to the skin is the most concentrated and good flavor up to a point as well. So anyway, it's a Southeast Asian type. It's one of the selections that I made. Almost all of those are made using a particular seedling that came up in the nursery when I think it was quite a few years ago. I was living at home, and I don't remember exactly, but it was quite a while back. And it happened to be a Southeast Asian flavored mango that was unique in that it came in really late. And we just called it the Zill Indo-Chinese. We never did propagate many of them. I think some of them got out somewhere. We abbreviated as ZIC. But the unique thing about it was that it was monoembryonic, which means that every seed you planted from it was going to be different. And so the polyembryonic ones, you plant a seed, you get a bunch of them. They're all going to, if you want to select by the aroma, they're all going to have that same aroma, so it's pretty difficult to pick one that's not the same as the parent. So anyway,
but it is possible.
It's difficult. It's difficult. You got to watch them grow for a while and see if you see any foliage difference. And you plant them out, you may or may not see a difference. And a lot of those, by the way, took forever. I never got any. I'm getting off the subject, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So let's stick to. So anyway, it's a Southeast Asian type, and it's very, very large, round. Most of the other ones, or the ones from that area of the world, are elongated. This is a round fruit. Can get very large, can weigh up to 2 pounds, and has a very, very good flavor of the Southeast Asian type. And we've heard some very good feedback of people that have tried it and just have raved about what a good mango it is. And probably for late season, as late as it comes in, it's maybe the only one that I know of that flavor type that stays on that long. So that's the most unique thing about it.
How's the productivity of it?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
And
I think Marcello says it's excellent. So,
is it a vigorous tree or semi-vigorous?
The original tree on its own rootstock was pretty vigorous, although the ones we've grafted on turpentine have been of moderate growth, not too vigorous. May have in the future, long time ahead, some rootstock that'll keep them quite dwarf. I don't know if I even should mention that yet, because there'll be a long wait for anything like that.
Okay, and what about disease resistance? Is that different depending where you plant it, or what's the history been with it here at your nursery?
Well, it's resistant to anthracnose. The main headache that people have with mangoes in Florida is anthracnose. Fortunately, it's the only one that's real bad, but it's bad enough, and it's worse. The more wet, humid, the further away you are from the ocean, sometimes the more rain you get, and the longer it takes for them to dry out in the morning. You don't get that ocean breeze that dries them out so much. The one thing about Venus, though, is I've heard some reports that it has a problem with bacterial black spot on the fruit. And that's kind of a strange disease. Unfortunately, it can be very bad on some fruit. I think it's worse than getting anthracnose on a fruit. But what's really weird about it is that it's not consistently bad. I mean, I had one particular mango that was just covered. All the fruit just terribly bad off a few years ago, and I thought, well, I'm not going to propagate any more of these, and we haven't. And then the last couple of years, it's been clean. And I do know that I've looked into bacterial diseases a number of years ago when I first heard of it. It was when even Keitt mangoes were terrible. I told them, and now I haven't seen a problem with it on Keitt. And I think there's a biological control of those. I know there's a company, I don't remember the name of it, actually contracts with growers, large growers, not mangoes, but other plants that are very susceptible to bacterial spot, and they actually grow, I guess is a good term, phages. Phages are one thing that will control bacteria. And they actually do contracts with growers, and they say, okay, send us your bacterial spot. We will then grow these and find phages and reproduce them that specifically attack these. And like bacteria are so good at evading pests, they have to update it. They actually have found that this is one of the most efficient ways to control bacterial diseases in some crops. I asked them about it, and when I told them about the whole thing, when I called, I was like really panicking about this. They said that it can be done, but it's unless you're doing it on a large scale. But what I have seen is that I've seen it come and go in my grove, and I have not tried to spray it with anything because I know it's difficult to control. And it appears that it's not that you don't always have a problem with it, and sometimes it just disappears on its own. I've had that happen with a few insect pests as well. Now, I had heard Phi told me a number of years ago that in Vietnam, they just spray with water out of a pond. And it may be that there's enough mix of bacteria and phages that attack the bacteria there that they are able to have some control. But again, I know that some varieties we grow or have grown, lemon zest is one that has been a problem, and yet I know somebody that lives a few miles away that has the most perfect lemon zest fruit every year. So I think I've said all I know about a bacterial spot. But anyway, back to the Venus, I haven't seen it myself as being a really big problem with the Venus mango, but I will warn you that you may see it, you may not. People, I understand, in Homestead, in that area further south, haven't reported any problems at all. And yet here, I believe in West Palm, Alex has seen a real problem with that. So I don't know.
Sure. Well, regardless, Venus is a very popular variety that people are continuously giving great reviews about. So there's the information on that. Now, the next one I want to talk about is Little Gem. Little Gem is another popular variety, and unlike the name Little Gem, it's not a dwarf tree, and the fruit isn't tiny, but people hear that, and that's what some people often say. But tell us about Little Gem as a late variety of mango tree.
Little Gem, it's a seed of a Zill mango, which says a lot about what to expect from its flavor. It has a distinct Indian flavor, aromatic, concentrated, and it's very good. Of the late, very late varieties, it's unique to have that type of flavor because, although there's some other Indian types that are late as well. Very productive, small. We call it Little Gem. It's not that small. It is smaller than most of the other late mangoes, and it's very good. So I guess small, we figured it would be valuable.
When you say small, do you mean the mango or the tree?
The mango.
The mango. It's not small, but it's smaller, but it's bigger than Zill mango.
No, it's actually about the size of a Zill mango. It's not big. Small, round mango. Comes in late. Can be very productive. Yeah.
Now, is it like really productive? Like what I've noticed is some of them taste amazing, and some of them don't have the best flavor. And maybe because there's so many on the tree, but is it something that needs to be thinned out when you're growing it?
Probably wouldn't hurt. A lot of these varieties, it's better to thin them out. This is one. Yeah, a tree can only do so much, you know, and if it's just really, really full of a lot of fruit, they won't be as flavorful.
Or consistent. So, I've never seen a mango that was so, one was absolutely amazing, and the next one is just okay, and the next one's so amazing. Yeah, it's really spectacular. I have two trees, and they both have this similar thing. Have you noticed that at all, or no, it's been consistent for you?
I'm going to have to take your word for it because, you know, I've got like 90 trees in my backyard and I don't get a chance to even taste them all every year, unfortunately.
Well, with the little gem, how about from a standpoint of, so it's very productive. The tree size, is it a very vigorous tree or medium or what?
It's very strange. I've noticed on different, even probably off-type turpentine mangoes, it grows, can be very vigorous, it can be very compact. And someday we'll have them where you can grow them in containers. I mean, it can be dwarfed, but in general, it's a medium-size growth habit.
And how does this tree do with disease resistance?
It's pretty clean. It's very strange because it's a Julie seed, and yet it's hard. Everything else about it reminds me of a Keitt. It has no color, just green, and it's very, very late. And I can't think, you know, knowing of all the options of where the Julie tree got pollen from, it's got to have been a Keitt. You know, I mean, that's my opinion anyway.
From your experience, is it better to pick these ripe on the tree? I mean, ripe, or wait till they get ripe on the tree, or pick them unripe off the tree? What's better for this
Almost all mangoes are better to be picked when they're fully mature, but not ripening on the tree. Some of them, yes, but most of them, and I think this is one, it's better to pick it green. Although, how do you know when to pick it when it's green? And if you got one fruit on your first, you know, first baby you planted it and it's 2 years old and you got 3 fruit, you don't want to pick them. So, you know, you may want to wait until you see one starting to turn and say, let's try it. And if it doesn't look like it ripened evenly, and all the rest of them are, you know, flowered and matured about the same time, then pick another one. And always, if you pick one and there's no really a lot of sap coming out of the stem, it's ready to pick. That's the first thing. There are other signs of the way the flesh looks, and a lot of that varies from tree to tree.
When you say it's a pretty clean variety, is this a variety that if somebody doesn't want to spray in their yard, this would be a good candidate?
Nobody wants to spray any of the trees in their yard if they can. I just really don't know, because usually we spray everything or don't spray everything, and it might be better to ask Marcello how they've been looking the last couple of years, because I think it's a pretty clean mango.
Okay.
Again, when you say spray, there's 2 problems. One is fruit set, and I don't know of any mango that you really can say is 100% you're going to get a good fruit set if it doesn't, whether you spray or not. You know, you may get a real heavy crop, you may not get much of a crop at all, depending on what the rains were. This winter, it rained a lot and was cold. It was wet and cold for every night for like 2 weeks or more. And in those conditions, in that weather, you're not going to get many fruit. And then keeping the fruit clean, I think that that particular mango, little gem, is going to be reasonably clean.
Considering late season mangoes experience more summer weather, so they've experienced more rain than, let's say, early season mangoes, some people say too much rain will wash out the flavor of a mango. So are these later season flavors somewhat washed out compared to the middle and early season because they're experienced going through more rain, or not necessarily? You haven't noticed that?
Okay. I haven't seen a real significant problem in Florida. Sometimes you know, you can get all season long, even if it starts raining a lot in May and June, the quality of all of your fruit is going to not be as good as if you can have a really long dry season. And if you're growing them in California where you don't get much rain at all, the fruit are going to be even more concentrated. The problem with late fruit in California is they just hang on the tree forever because it's so cold. But I have definitely without question seen a problem with that in my place in Costa Rica. I try to get, you know, once the heavy rains start in May, June, the flavor is really washed out. Yeah, so I like to just grow early varieties down there and get them, hopefully they're ready to pick before the rains start.
Okay. Another advantage also of early variety is you don't have to deal with possible hurricanes, which come later in the season, often here in South Florida.
Definitely.
So,
No.
But there's definitely an advantage of planting late season to extend your season. So people got to weigh out what they got. So another late season one we're going to talk about next is Honey Kiss. So tell us about Honey Kiss.
I don't know a whole lot about that particular mango. Now, I got to mention something that it's kind of embarrassing. I had that tree. It was a seed I planted, and it was very good flavored, but I thought it was too small. My brother Walter saw it, tasted it. He said, "That's a really good mango. Can I take some budwood?" And I said, "Of course." So he grafted it and watched it much longer than I did and decided it was a really good mango and gave it a name. He's the one that named it Honey Kiss. And we started growing it, and it's become very popular. And I think from the flavor, I'm not even sure what that tree was because I didn't keep track of it. After Walter started growing it, I had so many other varieties to look at, which was a mistake. To not take other people's opinions as much. So I'm not sure what the seed was. I think it could have been a Julie seed. I have no idea, really, other than it's a very good flavored Indian type mango.
And productivity-wise, how would you say for the Honey Kiss?
It's pretty good. Mm-hmm.
And vigorous-wise, I hear it's a smaller tree.
No, it's a compact, definitely compact tree.
Is this probably the most compact of the late season?
I think that's that's a fair assessment, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And disease-resistant-wise, about the Honey Kiss, what do you know about that?
Probably good. I should have Marcello in here and ask him too. This should be a joint.
I think I asked him about it last time, and he says it was one of your best disease-resistant ones.
Yeah, he's been the one picking most of these fruit for the last 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, he says that's a pretty clean one.
Yeah.
So Honey Kiss is it's. I love the flavor. I like Honey Kiss, and it's compact, so that's going to give many people this advantage.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got a lot of calls for it.
Yes. Next one, let's look at M4. M4 is a mango without a name, but it's what can you tell us about the M4?
Well, M4 is a. Let me check my notes. I got this so darn many. I got 2 pages of notes on this stuff, and we had. First, we had just a location number in the tree. M4, yeah, it was a Keitt seed, and it's very late, like a Keitt. It's small, but reasonable sized. Very late, can stay on probably as late as a Keitt, but it's not a good idea to do that because sometimes. When I say not a good idea to do that, don't leave them on too long. It can be picked green. It's better to pick it green. But if they stay on into the 1st of September and you got a heavy crop, which it can do, it can really load up, they will, it won't be able to recover very well for your next season.
Really?
So either it's good to, especially if it's a small tree and it's in your backyard, thin it out a little bit. Fruit will get a little bigger. If you're going to thin fruit though at all, Do it when they're small. Do it when they're the size of a marble, so that the tree hasn't put a lot into it already. You can just divert it. It's
Is that just for this particular variety or any variety? The longer you let the fruit hang, it can start affecting next year's crop.
yeah, but no, not really, not really. I mean, your early mangoes, they're going to be off by June or July, but when they're starting to get into, late August, and you got a really heavy crop, it can affect the tree. The best thing to do when you get them off, if you're concerned or if you're really after a lot of production commercially, is to, as soon as you get the fruit off, either trim your tree back if it's time to print it immediately. If you're not going to print it back, give it a foliar nutritional spray and see if you can get the flesh out quicker and get a new flesh of growth on it for the following year.
And what a vigorousness of the M4?
It's moderate. Yeah. In fact, I think, and I'm limited in space. So I've got a few trees out here, but I know the original tree is quite reasonably sized. I haven't had to print it much at all. The thing's 30 years old or something like that. It's a seed of a Keitt, and it's one that I'm pretty confident was pollinated by either a Gary Mango or Pettigrew. Both of those have this very unique flavor. This is actually one of the things I was especially wanting to try to find, was to get more varieties that had that particular unique flavor that happens to be my favorite of all of the mango types. And I've never had anybody taste it, taste the fruit like that wasn't really impressed. It's a background flavor that you don't find. I haven't found it so far in Florida mangoes up until now in anything but the Pettigrew, which is a very strange mango that has a terrible problem with uneven ripening, and the Gary Mango, which is a small, kind of insignificant appearance, small, big seed, no color, but the flavor is phenomenal. And so anyway, that's my story about where both the M4 was one of the background flavors, and it also cotton candy. Both of those, it's just a little bit of a hint. It's not that strong. It's also in a couple of other selections I made.
Okay. So with the M4, do you know much about the disease resistance, or is...
It's pretty clean. It gets a lot of that from the Keitt.
Okay. Well, the Keitt is not pretty clean. The Keitt gets the black spot, right? Or it had in the past.
Yeah, it'll get the black spot. I haven't heard any feedback one way or the other on
the M4. It's not known to have. Yeah. Okay.
A lot of what's known about these is from trees that we've sold and other people comment about. In fact, sure. I feel kind of funny talking specifically about some of these varieties because I haven't really tried to. I'm very happy the fact that we've made these trees available and they've become popular, not from anything I've said, but from people's experience with it. And I think it's really important that we find out what other people have to say. It's
how we learn. It's how
we learn. And I'm very glad to see that there's so many of these varieties that we get orders for these trees every year. We get feedback every year on a lot of these. Now, I believe me, I will not say that they're the only really good mangoes that you can get in Florida. Some of the mangoes out of Vietnam and India and Thailand are also excellent.
Sure. You mentioned cotton candy. That's another late season one. Yeah. So tell us about what you know about the cotton candy.
It's a Keitt seedling as well. It tastes a lot like, we call it cotton candy because it kind of resembles that. It and the M4 are very similar in flavor. The cotton candy is quite a bit bigger. It's a much more vigorous, upright tree. Has a real open growth habit. You can see through the tree. Sunlight gets into the fruit pretty well. And again, it's late season, reasonably clean, like the Keitt, like its parent. And again, I'm quite sure it was pollinated with either a Gary or a Pettigrew. More than likely a Gary Mango.
What about the productivity?
It's pretty good.
Pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
And vigorousness of the tree?
Very. Yeah, it's quite vigorous.
Very vigorous, okay. Another one is Orange Essence.
Orange Essence. It's a Keitt seed, Hard to say what his parent was. I'm wanting to look at myself here, my notes, because whenever I selected these, I always selected them from the aroma of the leaf when the seed was just germinating, and it was, it's a Keitt seed. And the leaves hadn't even fully expanded from the first flush of growth. That's whenever and that aroma is a lot like I've talked about this before, like the aroma of the sap in the fruit. And I selected it as actually, I thought I detected a little bit of that Gary pedigree aroma. But since it's ripening, people say, and it's gotten the flavor more of orangey flavor. So that just goes to show a lot about how complex the genes are in mangoes. You just never know what you're going to get when you plant a seed, and there's just a huge amount of variation.
What about the vigorousness of the orange essence?
Medium. And it can be very productive, and some years, I don't know, but they need full sun. They need to be out in the sun. I planted some trees where they got a lot of them in the shade, and they didn't do well production in the shade, but out in full sun, I've had them break limbs from too much production. So, and
they stay pretty clean, resistant?
Not real clean. It's a Keitt seed. Keitt, not Keitt. A Keitt seed. Keitt's not particularly clean either, and it's about like a Keitt. It'll get anthracnose. I don't know about bacterial spot, hasn't been a problem. But yeah, it's not the cleanest.
Okay. Next we got here is Neelum. Okay, yeah, now that's an Indian variety. Comes in also very late. Very good flavored, but I've never had one that wasn't full of anthracnose. Again, it's a late mango, and your late mangoes, the later the more time they're on the tree, the worse they get for anthracnose. And, all of the mangoes directly out of India, at least North India, until you get quite south, they all ripen. They have such a long dry season, perfect for the mangoes, that there's really not much of a worry about anthracnose resistance with those varieties. But your late Indian varieties, which Neelum, I think, is the only example that I have gotten any fruit off of a late variety that I know enough about to say, it's be careful with it, because they need to stay on the tree till late. When I say late, August, and by then it's really hard to find a clean one. If you probably, if it's wide out in the open, getting sunlight from all over, and you do apply some fungicides to it, you might be able to get some really good clean fruit, because it's an excellent flavor. Excellent. Now, the small fruit, very small fruit.
It's a small fruit, yes.
It's probably the smallest of the late season variety fruit-wise, in terms of the size of the fruit.
I don't know. I think that little gem's a little bit smaller.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. And what about on the Neelum? I've heard some people say, I don't know if this is a problem you run across, and I've experienced it, unevening in some of the fruit on the Neelum.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I've picked a few fruit, but I've gotten very few fruit off the trees that I even picked and paid much attention to, because they were so full of anthracnose.
Okay, so there's another one that I tasted a couple of years ago that was absolutely delicious, but it's not well known. It's called Ambrosia. It's a late season. The flavor is out of this world. Yeah,
in fact, I don't know that I even wrote it down on my list to tell you what the parent is. I've got it on my maps, but yeah, I can't tell you much about it right
besides
now.
Besides the parenting, and tell us about the fruit besides that. Do you know about
it's a round fruit, has a lot of color, it's beautiful. And whenever I tasted them, it's just a very, very good flavored mango. But a couple of years ago, it was just absolutely covered with black spot. bacterial black spot, and I just lost interest in it. I was like, it's just not good to grow in Florida, not in my backyard. And then the last couple of years, it's been clean. So we may get around to propagating some of them. It's, again, Ambrosia. That's what it was first called. I just, and it's pretty. It's a very, very good mango. I'll have to take a closer look at it this year, pay more attention, because it may turn out to be reasonably clean.
Okay, the next ones are very, well, the Ambrosia, is it a vigorous tree?
I only got one tree of it. I haven't done much with it because I wasn't too excited about it, and it's been a little bit crowded, so I can't really say. Okay. I don't think it's real vigorous.
Okay. So going back, so now a lot of these, you said the late seasons were from seedlings of Keitt or Kent. If you use a late season seedling, does that assure that the mango that's going to grow from it is going to be late season or not necessarily?
You can't tell.
Okay.
I don't think, I mean, odds are good. Odds are much better. I mean, if you plant seed of an early mango, it's very unlikely to be late. If you have a late mango, you plant a Keitt seed, it's more than likely.
Do you have an example of a late season Keitt or Kent that is not a late season mango? Do you have an example of the ones you know? No? Okay. No. All right, so speaking of Keitt and Kent, let's first get to Kent. Tell us about Kent.
Oh, Kent's an old variety. My father was propagated a bunch of them from a man named Bill Kent, who had a nursery, and he planted a Hayden seed. And at the time, and it's still a very good late mango. It's large, has a very good flavor, and you know, all the progeny, I should say, of Hayden and most of the other selections in South Florida have what I call the background plain vanilla flavor of mangoes, and it's all very good, and there are variations on those, but they're all in kind of the category, and you know, like say plain vanilla, not in any derogatory term. In fact, one of my selections that we call Ugly Betty, I think is a really good example of that type of the background flavor on mangoes. It's just no real strong aromatic of some of the Indian types or even Southeast Asian, but very sweet and very concentrated of the what most people are used to eating of a Florida mango. I think there's another one in that category, but it doesn't come to mind right now.
They're super vigorous, right?
Which is this?
The Kent.
Kent? Not necessarily.
No. Okay.
No. It's a medium growth. It can get to be big, and it's a dense foliage.
The thing why I see them so tall is because they've been around longer than most.
They've been around forever. They've been around forever. Yeah. They're, like I said, it's just one of the first seedlings of the Edward. I mean, not Edward, of Hayden.
Hayden.
Yeah.
And then what about the Keitt? Is that similar to the Kent in terms of the history of it, or is it?
I don't know. I was just looking at a book published by Fairchild Gardens. Richard Campbell was the chief editor, and it lists descriptions of all of the of the time. It was published in 1992, but has a description of all of the Florida mangoes that they considered significant and some insignificant, but it's got a lot of different ones. And they can tell you more about the background. What I know about the Keitt is still one of the most significant, very late mangoes. It's of the, should I say, more of the mild flavors. Not to be critical of it at all, but it's not one that you sit down and taste and say, oh my God, I never tasted a mango like that. But it's still very good, and one of the few mangoes that still stay on and is reasonably clean up into August. However, it's become, I think that in general, just like everything else that seems to be happening, there are more virulent strains of funguses that attack the foliage of mangoes. And Keitt has become more and more problematic to grow because of fungus problems, not on the fruit, but on the foliage. We have a hard time keeping them looking decent in our nursery more than any other variety. And it's a problem that I never saw 20, 30 years ago, but it's definitely become a problem with that mango. Now, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from getting it. If you want a mango that's going to stay on really, really, really late, it's still one of the best.
Okay. And any black spot issues or other disease resistance on it? I mean, it's Keitt and Kent.
Have you heard yourself? I don't really know.
Yeah, Keitt and Kent were in that same category.
Black spot.
The black spot.
Yeah, I know.
At least here in West Palm. Other places.
Yeah. I saw some Kent trees in West Palm that were just covered with black spot. Kent. I haven't seen much of a problem at all in my backyard or here. So it kind of moves around, I guess.
And that seems to be the thing with the black spot. Some yards right next to each other, one will get it and one won't.
Oh, I know. The lemon zest in my backyard, we've got 2 trees that you almost never see any of it on. And 50 yards away, there's trees that pretty consistently have it.
Yeah. So.
And I don't know, maybe I should get some pumps and water, fill up my spray tank with water out of the canal, out of the lake there, and spray everything and see if that doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there's another late season one that is not really well known, and it's called a Zill late. It's not really well known, but you said it's a late season that you have, Zill late.
It's pretty late. Yeah, that's one that I was, oh gosh, I think I was just out of college. It goes back a long ways. That we discovered in the grove for my father's grove where I grew up. That was absolutely gorgeous. It was every bit as pretty as the Tommy Atkins, but came in much later. And it, the first year that we got fruit off this original seedling tree, they were spotless, very good internal, no internal breakdown problems. We were excited about it. We took grafted off it, put it on a number of trees. The following year, every one of those trees had a terrible, terrible problem of, it wasn't like jelly seed. It was just a really bad internal breakdown right next to the seed, that it would just be almost brownish, decayed looking. It wasn't a bacteria or fungus that we know of, but and we never could get any fruit from those trees, no matter when we picked them, that didn't have that internal breakdown that was so severe. My guess now is that for some reason we weren't getting enough calcium and boron on them, which is a whole other topic. And we just discontinued growing them. We grafted a few that first year and stopped. And I think there are a few of them around in collections or whatever, but I've never encouraged people to grow it because of that, which is a shame. I should try getting, what I usually do on trees that I want to try to be careful with is get extra calcium sulfate and boron on. That's, again, we're getting off the subject.
Sure. Well, we've covered many of the popular late season varieties and some unpopular ones. They all have a name except one, the M4. So
right.
Before we close, what's happening with the name on that? Are we keeping it at M4, or do you think we're going to...
There are 2 or 3 like that we never could decide on a name. And M4 was one, P22 was another, and so was 015. And we've had so many people comment about it, and it's gone out over social media, and we've been selling trees by that name for so long that we decided, what the heck, let's not cause confusion anymore.
Sure.
Then we need to, we'll just stick with that. And I think it's kind of cool in that all of those numbers stand for where they were located on my map, and it kind of refers back to a lot of the work I did.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for sitting down and talk with us about these late season varieties. Everybody, you can get these at Zill's Nursery. I'll put their link below, High Performance Nursery. They have these
they buy it from the nurseries, can get it from us.
Yes,
we
from the
wholesale.
retailers that get them from Zill's.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and keep up the great work, and hopefully we can come back in the future and talk about early season mangoes.
All right.
All right.
Okay, yeah. Well, hopefully we can get some other stuff about mangoes whenever we can actually cut into them and show.
Yeah, we'll come back during mango season, and
interesting.
we'll try all of these as well and talk about them. So, Gary, thank you for everything you're doing, everybody, and I'm going to put the contact information below, everybody. Thank you. All right, everybody. So we saw the list of the late season mangoes. Now let's look at some of the trees in the ground. We'll have to come back here late season and try some of these mangoes, but we're going to go take a look in the field now and see what some of them look like, so you can get an idea of how these older trees look in the ground. And there's a bunch of trees that they have here, and these are just really for experimental purposes. We're going to ask them some questions. How far apart did you plant most of these? Do you remember?
Well, I don't remember exactly. Of course, Mr. Paul, this wasn't for grow purposes. You know what I mean? It wasn't planting in the right distance, right? He was taking advantage of the space.
To get bloodwood?
Yeah, experiment and see how they're growing in the different properties. Yeah.
But it's still a great example of what happens when you grow close together and how things look and come along. And you got mangoes, a good amount of mangoes, but like Marcello said, if you planted it for a different goal, you'll have different choices. All right, so we're going to take a look now at some of the trees. We're going to look at, what are we going to look at here?
Honey Kiss over here.
All right.
Very productive, very good variety. As you can see, it stays pretty clean. Also, what you can see is first bloom. First bloom's up there. Yeah. Yes, it got a very nice first bloom, and then it's coming with a nice like mid-season bloom, as you can see, and then it's coming a little later. So that's very particularly about this honey kiss. Yes.
How old is this tree?
It's about 15 years old.
Have you trimmed it ever?
No.
Wow, 15 years. Look how short it stayed for 15 years. This is a excellent tree. It stays clean. I'd estimate one of the best late season varieties from, I love the way this tastes. And you can plant these closer together because they are a slower growing tree. But look at that. Wow, look at this.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how productive this thing is.
Is it every year like this?
Every year it's like this, yeah.
Wow. Honey Kiss. We just got the background about it from Gary Zill. But wow. 15-year Honey Kiss. I don't know anyone who has a tree this many years in the ground of Honey Kiss, but now you're getting to see it here. So I'm so excited to come here and film this tree. Wow. We're going to go look at
Orange Essence?
Orange Essence.
Yeah.
Now these mangoes stay green, right?
If
on the tree, do they turn color at all?
Okay, the Orange Essence is very tricky. As you said, it has to be picked green. It cannot be let it ripen in the tree. You're not gonna get the right taste.
But do they turn any color at all?
They get small circles on the top whenever they wanna be picked green. That's the main characteristic. It's in here to your left.
Okay, how old is that tree?
That's the same as the other ones, 15 years old.
Orange Essence. And it's a Keitt seedling, and Alex said it'll grow like a Keitt, and there's the example. It grows similar style to Keitt.
Correct, yeah.
But that one has a little red in it. It's not completely green, right?
Right. Well, they are developing.
Yeah. So when will the first mangoes on this normally be ready, or at least this year?
Oh, at least August, first bloom. Yeah, it's really late. Yeah, Orange Essence is one of the latest that we have.
So this is 15 years, but this must have been pruned over the years.
Right, it got pruned, yeah.
So this grows much bigger. So this has been pruned. The Honeykiss was smaller and never been pruned, right?
Correct.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's Orange Essence. Excellent tasting variety. All right. And what do you got to say about it? Anything here?
In terms of production, disease resistant is not the best one, of course. It has problems, but I do like the flavor, and the productivity of this thing is heavy productive. Yeah, I would call it like that.
The flavor is amazing.
Yeah, we can go and watch the other variety that is Little Jim over here, just close to this Orange Essence. It's gonna be over there in the corner.
All right, in the corner. This is Little Gem.
This is the Little Gem. As you can see, heavy productive. And it's gonna be very late. This is a late mango. Yeah.
This is often one of Alex's latest hanging mangoes on the tree.
Right, yeah.
A Little Gem, and the tree is not that little. It looks. Now, have you trimmed this one over the years?
Yes, I did.
And how old is this tree here?
It's about the same as the other ones, 15 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can keep it like this in 15 years. I'm still so impressed at a Honeykiss that's that tall and you don't even have, it grows
Never.
amazing.
Yeah.
But look at this. This is an excellent variety. I have this variety. It's usually my latest variety and I love this mango and I'm glad I have it. It's loaded. Little Gem. Excellent. 3 excellent varieties we've just seen here.
Yes, great.
All right, look at the cotton candy. Wow, look at that. Loaded. And when does this fruit, when do you pull this fruit off the tree?
Well, that's mid, kind of late, but it's more late than mid. Yeah.
Cotton candy, I have a tree and my neighbor has a tree. Great variety, tastes wonderful. All right, cotton candy. Amazing. Amazing. And how's the disease resistance?
It needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It needs to be big green as well. Very important, that characteristic of it. Doesn't like to be big ripe on the tree.
Good to know.
Yes.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Cotton candy, that's really good to know. Pick it green, not ripe on the tree. Now, if you're picking it green, how do you know when to pick it?
This particular mango, as many others of Mr. Zill's, they show Luna cells whenever it's ready. They show it very, very bad. It's impossible not for people to see it because they just show it in all forms.
When you say lunar cells.
Like a small little stars.
Gotcha.
Right, you know what I meant? Like,
and that's when you know they're ready to pick.
Right.
All right, cotton candy. And for me, when I eat this right near the skin, it literally tastes like cotton candy. Right under the skin.
Right, it's very good mango. Yeah.
Yes. All right, everybody, there it was. That was a Gary Zill, and that was our late season mangoes. These are the ones we thought of here off the top of our head, the late season mangoes. Gary, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge about these and the history of these.
Well, I could go on and on about some of these, but also this kind of impromptu. I haven't, it's off the top of my head, and if there's something that people want to disagree with or that had different luck, that would be good to, post and reply, I guess, on your site.
Absolutely. Put in the comments below. And remember, this has been the experience at Zill's Nursery is right near where I live here in South Florida and West Palm Beach. So somebody more south of us in Miami, somebody in Central Florida or on the West Coast might have different experience with these varieties. Even as Gary said, you could have 2 trees of the same variety in the same yard next to each other and have different experiences. But we're just going over the history of these and let you know what's available and what has been the most common situations people have had. So you could make a better decision in deciding what variety you want to grow at your house when you're planting. So Gary, thank you for all you're doing for the people in the mango community and for making these available for all of us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, put your comments and questions below. Until then, we'll be back again with another video. Have a great day, everybody, and keep growing.